Israel. It's the last evening of this first series of the CovInspiration Business School. And since Monday, we've been talking about money, we've been talking about business, we've been talking about the economy. I have had on the show Mr. Tony Cole on Monday, Mr. Felicia Philip on Tuesday, Paul Onwo. Oh my God, they shouldn't hear that I could have pronounced his surname well. Onwobia on Wednesday. And on Thursday, we had Antemo, the former chairperson of Actors Bank. But tonight, I have someone I'm very excited about. Of course, I'm excited about everybody, but I'm super excited about my guest tonight because he's a young person in this generation. So, for those of you who think that you can only be successful in business when you're gray haired or when you're old or when you're mature, like all our other guests, this person is going to break that myth. I'm going to show you that you can actually be young and be successful in business. You don't have to be old to be wise. He's the youngest person on the Presidential Enabling Business and Economy Council. I think that's how it's pronounced, PBEC. He's the founder of Andela. He's the founder of Flutterwave as well. I am delighted to have on the show tonight a young billionaire in this generation. And I put emphasis on that because we're talking about money this weekend, wealth and business. A young man, he's not yet 30. I think he is still single. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Iyinoluwa Aboyeji. Hey, brother,
Hello.
how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for the introduction. The only mistake you made is I'm married, though. I'm married and I have a child. Just like
Hallelujah. and then you have Jesus, and like you're a church boy.
yes, please, yes, sir.
That
Hallelujah.
is so good to see. How do you do all this great stuff that you're doing? How do you know, people say, oh, it's the glory of God. Yes, we know it's the glory of God. But how did you also, what were the things that you did differently growing up that set you on this path where you have become successful? You founded multi-billion naira, maybe even dollars businesses, have gotten investment and, globally recognized. How did you get here?
On the one hand, I think it's always helpful to recognize the grace of God, because at the end of the day, it wouldn't be possible. I think beyond that, I think I would say three things that really stuck with me in my own experiences. The first thing is really having an understanding that the only way you can be wealthy, right? I mean,
I'm taking notes, so
you should. The only way to be wealthy in a very good sense, that's without shortcuts or anything, is to meet people's needs. The way I learned this lesson was an interesting way. I started out. I actually wanted to be a professor when I was younger. I was in law, for that matter, and topsy-turvy, I ended up in the line of business that is technology. I did my first startup, but in my first startup, I was very, very focused on making money for myself. I wanted to make money like every other businessman. And then I later realized, I had an epiphany where I had witnessed a lot of young people who had come out to look for jobs be trampled upon in a stampede at National Stadium. And I saw
that was immigration one.
That was immigration, exactly. I saw that and I was like, no, this cannot be us. And so I dedicated my time to figuring out a solution for unemployment. And that was how, by iteration, we got to Andela, which the whole idea was, how do you find talented young people? How do you train them to become software developers and then place them with developers around the world, with technology companies around the world? And this was the model that we used to scale. And that business today is a $600 million plus company. Last year, it made $50 million in revenue. It has over 2,000 staff spread out across 6 countries. In fact, it's gone fully cloud now. So maybe even more countries, and they expect to grow more. So just to show you that just that focus on other people's needs is very critical. The second thing I would say is that it's very important to be able to chart your own path. A lot of people like to follow an established path to get to wherever it is that they're going to, and this is like a big challenge in general, because people don't want to brave new paths. They don't want to move from where they are in life, and this creates all sorts of issues. And then I'll say the third very, very important thing that everybody has to understand, is that really has helped me today, is an understanding of the fact that the people who can accomplish things, especially difficult and important things, are teams. And they're often teams of people who individually could have done very well on their own, but because they've decided to come together and attack a specific problem, they are now going to be wildly successful. And I think that's a very critical lesson that I've learned. I've had the pleasure of working with amazing teams. With Andela, I worked with Jeremy Johnson, who are taking a company public in the US. I worked with Christina Sass, who was a PhD in education at Harvard. I worked with
Wow.
Nadaya. I worked with Bryce. These were top world-class engineers. One of them was going to go to Google before he joined us. The other one was from Pivotal Labs. I worked with Ian Carnevale, who had sold multiple businesses before he came to join us and was a very talented designer. At Flutterwave, I had the pleasure of working with Benga Agboala, Leke, a lot of other very talented, fantastic executives in the fintech world. So at the end of the day, I find that a lot of young people, perhaps in a bid to project themselves or to be seen as important or whatever, they pick people that are just going to tell them, yes, sir, and yes, ma. But they are missing an opportunity to build very, very rock solid teams, collaborate with peers, even superiors, in order to be able to make sure that they can deliver the right kind of outcomes. So those are the three major things. Number one, serve a big need. Number two, be willing to follow a non-traditional, unbeaten path. And number three, everything important is built by teams. So it's important for you to be able to pair up with very strong team members.
Sorry, you were saying something. You said be willing to follow a non-traditional part. And then number three
Hello.
was,
And the
yes,
number
can you hear me
three,
clearly?
I can hear you very clearly now. I hope it's not my connection that's giving you trouble.
I think it's
Hello.
my connection. Sorry, forgive me.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So I said number three is that you need to identify very strong teammates. A big chunk of my success is not me alone. It was the strength of the people I worked with. Like I said, my co-founder at Andela had taken a company public in the US. My other co-founder was a PhD was about to get
In
a PhD
Harvard,
in education
yes.
from Harvard. Exactly. So
Yes.
very, very strong teams. That's a very, very big thing that has helped me to become successful. So you might not own 100% of the business, if you understand what I'm trying to say, but you have a very strong team, you're going to be successful.
So, but how do you identify the right kind of people? The right kind of people that can bring in the right value to you? What should you be looking out for? And what
Absolutely.
adjustment should young people? So let's practicalize it for a lot of younger person, our generation, my generation, and then
Yeah.
your generation.
Mm-hmm.
Who you I'm trying to say that even people that may not be as fortunate as us,
Yes.
you
Yes.
understand, how do they build and connect the right kind of relationship that would give them, successes? Because sometimes the environment that you grow up, you went to, great schools, you went on to Canada, and not every young person would
Absolutely.
have that kind of exposure.
Exactly. And I recognize that privilege, that I had the ability to build great connections and go as Canada. But you see, one thing I like to also tell young people is that everybody needs help. Every single person. You see, when I met Jeremy, it's not like I was Jeremy's peer or something. This was an entrepreneur older than I was. He had IPO'd the company on the US stock exchange, I was emailing him incessantly to meet with him. But when I met with him, what I did that I commend myself for was that I didn't focus on what I wanted from him, which was obviously funding. I asked him, what does he want to do? Right? And he started talking about the idea that became Andela. As we say in Yoruba land, Olówó ń sọ̀rọ̀.
Talika ló idea.
So that was how Andela was born, right? Exactly.
Let me rephrase that for you. Olówó ń sọ̀rọ̀, Olóṣìlówó ní strategy.
You understand what I'm saying? So I remember that meeting. I had come to the US, thankfully, by divine providence. One of my investors who, at the last minute, invested in my company at the time, Fora, told me, come to the US. I went to the US. I emailed this gentleman, like, I emailed him. I thought he wouldn't respond to me. I extended my trip to make sure I met with him. I was emailing, right? Eventually, he said, okay, fine, I'll take the meeting. You've disturbed me enough. We were having salad. I cannot eat grass. I ate salad. I sat down there. I pitched him. And, I was pitching him on, let's do this business. Let's do that. And then I kept quiet. And I asked him, what are you up to now? You've IPO'd this company. What are you looking to do? Then he started talking about the model, what he did, just to give you some context. His IPO, he IPO'd a company that makes technology that helps universities go online. Very elite universities take their programs online to online university. And at the time, he had taken that company public. So just the week before, they are taking the company public. So he was thinking about it, and he was telling me that in developing countries, people will not be able to afford what he has built, but he would like to be able to make more of a difference in developing countries. So he was looking at a new kind of model where you teach skills that are marketable globally. And then those skills that are marketable globally are then what you now use to pay for the degree, which is what Andela started to do. Teach people software development, place them in companies, then make money. Now, if I hadn't listened, I told him straight off the bat, I said, look, I'm doing what I'm doing, but it doesn't mean that I cannot join you and do what you are doing. And if what you are doing is working better than what we are doing, we are going to move. And you see, what happened was that at the time he had told me, I would like to be your chairman. Maybe he was afraid. But I told him that, look, sir, I will give you, at the time I had 80% of the equity. I said, I will give you as much equity as you want.
How many percent?
Just come and lead the company. Yeah, I owed 80% of the equity in that company, Fora. I told him I'll give you as much equity as you want. When I went to Andela, I went down to 10%.
Wow.
So that is, you have to be willing, if you want
to compromise, to give something.
To compromise, to give something. Because you know what you're getting out of it. Do you get what I'm saying? You're getting an experienced talent.
Yes.
You're getting somebody that is, many young people, they're very entitled. They'll say, oh, you are trying to take my whole company, this one, that one. But I can bet.
Can I tell you something? Can I tell you something? What you're saying is that you have to be willing to submerge your idea for another person's idea so that in the long run you can thrive.
Exactly.
I was telling this to someone recently. He's got an appointment to work with someone, under someone, and he's gotten there and he's like, oh, I have this. I said, no, don't go there with your own idea. Find out what does the person want to achieve first. And that's the mistake young people make.
Exactly. You have to align with that agenda. And then, as you grow, you're going to learn things from him. You might not always agree with the ideas, but you're loyal to your principal. And then you have an opportunity yourself to then put your own ideas. So it's very, very important value in building teams or joining teams that are very strong and that lead you on the path to success. I'll tell you, if I had stayed with that 80%, you know that my 10% today is worth more. It's less than 10% now, but it's worth more than the entire 100% of that
100.
Other company.
You are not alone.
Exactly.
See, I get what you're saying so much. Let me tell you what happened to me. So I ran for 2 elections. I ran for House of Assembly. I didn't get anything. My enemy went back home almost empty-handed, aside from the experience I got. Okay, I think it was first local government chairman, then House of Assembly. But after the House of Assembly election, I did something different. I forgot my own idea or aspiration or ambition. I put aside my goals and I went to work for my party and for my governor. That time was a candidate. I submerged an idea, my own idea, to push his own and advance his own idea. And guess what? Today,
Exactly.
I'm able to even advance some of my own idea by working with him. And my five is worth, let's say my five or my one is worth more than 100 if I was alone.
Exactly. You know, I think it was one of the Nigerian hip hop artists that said, "Who you serve," right?
Yes,
you can't,
yes.
There's no way you can make it without serving people. You understand? And everybody has a capacity to serve. Every single person. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you serve indefinitely or you serve foolishly, but it obviously means that serving is a stepping stone to leadership, right? Ultimately, you're going to get an opportunity, but you have to be able to make the right sacrifices at the right time. It's very, very important. So when I talk about building teams, you know, what I keep saying is that you have to make sure that you're working with people who will mentor you, people that you can mentor. You understand what I'm saying? You build a team together. You build a team together. It's very, very critical.
Fantastic. I was going to ask you, in terms of raising finance, how do you leverage relationship?
So I'll tell you this, right? One big misconception a lot of people have is that professional financiers like banks or venture capitalists fund ideas, but it's not true. Do you understand? It's not true. They fund businesses. So there are multiple stages in establishing an enterprise. The first level is getting your idea to become even a small reality, getting it into a pilot phase, showing that it's more than an idea on a piece of paper. And there's a specific set of people that can finance that. I would say the first person who needs to finance that is yourself. And then you should have a close group of people who should be able to support you because of your faithfulness. Again, back to the question of serving. You understand what I'm saying? I have a group of people whenever I want to do a project. You understand? I go to those people first. And because I've been faithful in little, every time they come back with more and more. And I'm very and because of that, I have that group. Then after I deal with that group, then I now go and meet the financiers. But remember, when I'm going to meet the financiers, I have the benefit of traction. I have the benefit of proof points. I have the benefit of they can come and see something on the ground or a clear plan for how we are going to get to the promised land. So this is very, very, very important.
How much of your focus goes into training and building the capacity of the people that work with you, in particular your employees?
Fantastic. That's a great question. You see, I'm one of the big believers in identifying diamonds in the rough. You know, there are some organizations that believe, you know, they can go and hire the most qualified person and then bring that person and they'll do it. And I think that works. There's a place for that in every organization. But, you know, I spend a lot of time identifying talent that's normally overlooked and then working with that talent, because I feel like beyond them being more loyal to you, you're also providing opportunity for people who would typically not be considered. I'll tell you a story. I have a young lady in my office. When I was looking to, I run a fund, a $10 million fund. When I was starting my fund, I should have not gone and hired MBA from Harvard or Stanford and all of that. But beyond the fact that there's no money for that, I wanted to be able to bring somebody up and not your typical kind of person. Because normally it's a lot of men, it's a lot of very, very rich people, very well educated abroad and so on. And I felt like a lot of the things I needed to do, I could get somebody who can do it if they have the right mindset and the right dedication. So what did I do? I went recruited this lady. She was working with me as my EA, and then I moved her into that department, and she's doing a fantabulous job, right? Within the
Wow.
space of 2-3 months, she's already raised equivalent to the commitments that I was raising, even more. She has even surpassed more. And you won't believe it, but she's still a third-year student in Unilag. So it's just like,
Wow.
for me, I like stories like that. You know, I spent at Andela. At Andela, that was our business. Our business was identifying talented young people who would ordinarily not get the opportunity because they didn't go to a fancy school or they don't know anybody. And through a merit-driven process, you bring them in, you provide them with the right training, and then you then connect them to foreign companies, technology companies. Today, many of those people live in Amsterdam. You will have a bigger Andela reunion in Amsterdam or in London that you will have in Nigeria at any given time, because a lot of those people, they got jobs with foreign companies, they moved over, you know, and they're living great lives. And that's what gives me joy, being able to take somebody all the way to a point where through their human capacity, they're able to create wealth for themselves and for their families.
So one of the challenges entrepreneurs have, and the people with great ideas in finding the right people, is that there are many people with too many beautiful CVs, too many great resume about their achievement, but less effective when you give them the job to do. So the question is, how do I make myself discoverable by somebody like you or by an investor? How do I make myself or my idea discoverable?
That's a great question. I mean, for me, what works for me, everybody will have what works for them. But for me, it's about being helpful, right? When you're the kind of person who is consistently helpful, you get into conversations and you're helpful, you find ways to add value, even when you are not, is not requested of you. Ultimately, I will notice you, because if I see something that I like, you understand what I'm saying? Or if I see resources that I like, I see research I like. I read a lot of things on the internet, articles, blogs, publications about what people are passionate about. And then I reach out to those people and have a conversation, because I'm always learning. And that's one thing I found with anybody who's successful. Anybody who is successful has to keep learning to remain successful. And they can learn from you. So what I always tell people is, look, if you want to be noticed by somebody like me, what is important is identify what you're passionate about and keep sharing knowledge about it. Ultimately, you will be noticed. If not by me, by somebody else who requires that support or that help. But that's what young people need to be doing on social media, not engaging in all sorts of nonsense, but actually sharing knowledge on social media about whatever it is that you're passionate about.
So you're not even 30. You've gotten a lot of investment and grants and the billion of naira, and you're doing so extremely well in business. Do you get the word is not intimidated? Does your age ever reflect in your, so you go to some meetings and you're like, oh my god, I'm the youngest in the room, or someone looks down on you and think, oh, this small boy, what does he know? Do you get those kind of experiences?
Of course. You talked about the Nigerian Industrial Council, and a big shout out to the DCOS. I cannot count how many times he's had to rescue me from the security at the villa, because they're like, what is this boy doing here? Is he an aide to somebody? Or not knowing that I'm one of the people that's supposed to be in the meeting. But such is life. I think it's a learning experience. I consider it an honor to be invited to wash my hands with others, and I try not to lose myself in that. Whether you're young or whatever, everybody has an opportunity to contribute. And what you just do is you try to serve well, you serve with integrity, you do your best, right? Are there barriers? Is there ageism? Yes, there is. However, value cannot be denied. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Value cannot be denied.
Yes.
If you have a heart disease and you need a transplant, are you going to be asking for the ID of your cardiac doctor? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just take the treatment that they give you. It's afterwards you can have that conversation. So that's why it's just important for you to just do your best in any situation you are. Do make sure you're excellent in that situation and work hard. You know, the benefit of I've worked with a lot of older, more successful people than I am. And what I try to bring to the table is that, look, I have the energy to get the work done. You understand what I'm saying? And every time I bring my A game, make sure I use my energy to get the work done. And because of that, they always think about me the next time they want to do something. And they need work.
Are you ever scared?
So
have you ever been scared of people stealing your ideas?
Never. That's something.
Or your strategy or your systems?
Never. And they do all the time, which is okay. Because for me, I think the service that I render is that I'm willing to give to the world. So I think it's even a good thing if somebody takes it and implements the idea. There's no problem. Because I know it's not that. I have an abundance mindset to ideas. I have one today, another one will come tomorrow. So there's no issue. So I don't have that attachment to ideas. I just share whatever I know, share whatever I have. Sometimes people implement them well. Sometimes people don't implement them well. No matter what the case is, I think it's always better to share your ideas. Most people will not do it. I cannot count how many people have come to me and said, I had the idea for Andela, but I didn't do it. I had the idea for Flutterwave, but I didn't do it. If I had $1, I will be a real billionaire, not this billionaire you're calling me Dayo. But most people don't follow up on their ideas. They don't invest in themselves. That's the reality. So as a result, you now have a situation where, because people are not really investing in themselves, they're not really doing anything. Most ideas are just unexecuted, not because people don't have the same idea, but because nobody has a commitment to making that idea a reality. And that.
So right now you're focused on Flutterwave.
Well, no, I actually left Flutterwave. So I built Andela 2014 to 2016. Flutterwave
and you sold it
2016 to 2018. I didn't sell. I'm still a big shareholder. But what I like to do is when the company gets to a certain level, it's a good idea for you to change over management. Because in the starting stages, business is often very, very intense. And I actually, with Flutterwave in particular, I got married and I had a child. And I didn't want to, I wanted to be able to spend a lot of time with my child, at least for her first year. And I was glad I got an opportunity to do so and spend a lot of time with my wife before we start getting busy with kids and so on. But I'm back to work now. I work for the Fund for Africa's Future, which is basically a people-powered innovation fund that backs a lot of innovators who are turning our countries and our continent's biggest challenges into global business opportunities. And then I under the Fund for Africa's Future, I'm working on a startup or on a couple of startups, to be quite honest. So that's really what I do on a day-to-day basis.
So what's the next thing you want to build? You built Andela, you built Flutterwave. What's the next thing you want to build?
Well, I think for me, where my mind is at these days is that Nigeria needs a space, or you can call it a city, where young people can, especially young people who work on the internet. There's a growing number of young people who do remote work. There's software engineers for companies abroad, copywriters, marketing experts, digital experts. Those people deserve a place that can model the infrastructure, right? The quality of life and policy and regulation that is going to make them successful in the global space. So that's what I'm very focused on doing these days, is how do you create a model for what that should look like, show it to the state governments, get the government cooperation. You understand what I'm saying? And then scale it from there.
Yes. How do you handle government regulations? You operate in many countries for many of the businesses that you've created.
I think a lot of the time it's really about a couple things. So the first thing is one, making a decision to remain compliant. There's a lot of people who decide, because the rules are not in their favor, they're going to break them. and they want freedom from that. I think at the end of the day, the government's true intention is to protect all of us, and that's why they make regulation. So I don't consider regulation to be an enemy. I look at it as government protecting my users, which is a good thing for me because I care about my users. But the second thing really is that building a relationship with the officials who are engaged in the regulation business is very, very, very important. You have to be able to build a relationship that allows you to be able to communicate with them, to be able to engage with them, but most importantly, Dayo, that enables you to educate them about the world as it is and where it's going. This is very, very critical, and I feel like a lot of our startups don't do enough of this.
Excellent. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of developing entrepreneurship in Africa, people starting up business and achieving economic prosperity. But the challenge is that many people are scared to take a risk. What was the level of risk that you had to take? In all this your business adventure, both at the beginning and also at the growing stage, and how were you able to manage them?
So I think a lot of it is really about, in the very early stages, identifying those risks and incentivizing people to identify solutions to risks. Also, leveraging a lot of partnerships. In the very early days, we leveraged a lot of partnerships with banks like Access Bank. We worked very closely with MasterCard and Visa. So leveraging partnerships, leveraging understanding kind of the environment that you're in, and trying to make sure that everybody has a win-win. Very, very critical.
And, it's one thing for a business to start. You left at a stage, you mentioned, I think, Flutterwave to go into, building family and all of that. How do you manage growth? How do you consider entrepreneurs? How should young entrepreneurs manage growth in their businesses?
Again, it's not a blanket thing. It really depends, as in all scenarios, it really depends. However, I think the best way to manage growth is to empower your users to be able to solve their own problems. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I wasn't sure if it was my network or your network. I can hear you. Yes, sorry. Yes.
I think this was my network. This was my network.
Okay.
So as I was saying, managing growth is a function of empowering your user base to be able to solve their problems. So when you think about why technology companies do a lot of self-service, that's part of managing growth. Imagine if a bank that has millions of customers like First Bank had to sign up customers for each product. Imagine how chaotic it's going to be. Do you understand? So this is all part of managing growth, leveraging technology, providing self-service options, strengthening your support departments. Very, very important. Making sure that people are making money because your product runs. Very important. So these are things that are exactly.
In interacting with world leaders, business leaders, and statesmen, people who have managed economies, what would you say are the secrets you've learned about building a sustainable business or becoming sustainable?
Business is built around people's needs. That's the biggest secret I've learned. Many times in Nigeria, we're divorced from the needs of people. People think that the way business is built is by getting a big government contract, or because somebody banned something for us. But in reality, business is built around people's needs, people's deep needs. So think about what people's most basic needs are. They need to eat. They need to have a shelter over their heads. They need to have a sense of meaning. They need to have a sense of belonging. They need to have clothes to wear. Think about those needs and find innovative ways to solve them by investing less than they are willing and able to pay you in return. This is the secret of business, meeting people's needs. meeting people's needs. That's the secret of business. So if you want to be a successful business person, you're almost like a charity in a weird way. It's just that people are willing to pay you for your charitable work. So if you look at business as making money, you're never going to go very far in life in business. But if you look at business as serving people's needs and you identify the specific needs of people that you are trying to serve, that creates a lot of wealth. That creates a lot of productivity for you.
I think your camera is not showing. You're dark. Is it possible to refresh or go out and go back in?
Yeah, let me refresh.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking to Iyinoluwa Aboyeji, the co-founder of Andela, the co-founder of Flutterwave, and has built so many businesses and supported so many. He currently manages a $10 million fund for growth in Africa. He is just refreshing his page and is going to be back with us in a few minutes to continue the conversation. Okay, I think he is back now. Sorry, we had some
right here
internet challenge. Are you back?
Okay, right here. I'm back here now.
Oh yeah, I think I can see you now.
Awesome.
Excellent. Yeah. So yeah, someone asked a question I need to read out to you. His name is Francis Okoye. He says, please, can you share your thoughts on how you think and model a startup that is scalable? I'm not sure what the question meant. Please, can you share your thoughts on how you think a model startup and model a startup that is scalable? Do you have an idea what is?
Well, I mean,
the question
I'm just going to assume the question that's asked, which is, how do you build a scalable startup? And I think first of all, you need to start by identifying a problem that a lot of people have. So, for example, today I can decide, okay, a problem a lot of people have is that they have garbage that they need to throw away, but they can't afford it, right? They can't afford to throw away their garbage.
Yes.
So what do I decide to do? I can decide, okay, if they can't afford to throw away their garbage, but they need their garbage, they need their environments to be clean, who is willing to pay me for their garbage, right? Then I can go and say, oh, all these people that collect bottles and so on and so forth. Okay, how much are they willing to pay me for the garbage? Or maybe they'll pay you 100 naira per bottle or 10 naira per bottle or whatever, right? Okay, so what you then decide you're going to do is that you go and collect all the garbage and sort the garbage out. That will maybe take you a little bit of time. And then you now decide, okay, I'm going to take all the bottles and sell them. And that will pay for the time that you used to do all that work. That is how you start a business. That's how you build a business. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Excellent. Yeah. So you've talked about how to start a business, but how do you remain profitable? Or how do you become profitable? The challenge is many young people start up businesses, but they're not profitable in the long run. And that's not making sense because they're actually not able to mix their own needs and make profit.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I didn't hear some of the question, but I'm just going to recap what I thought I heard. Right? How do you build a profitable business while meeting people's needs? That's basically what I heard in a summary.
Yeah.
And I think the key thing is really, like I said, when you identify a challenge, the first thing you need to do is identify who is willing to pay for that problem to go away, right? Who is willing to pay for that problem to go away? Or in the process of doing that activity, are there actions or programs or inputs that other people find valuable? Do you understand what I'm saying? So, for example,
yes.
If people want rubber sandals, you get what I'm trying to say. But people are only willing to pay 10 naira for rubber sandals. Meanwhile, it costs 50 naira to make a rubber sandal. Then that's not fulfilling people's needs. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
However, if somebody if somebody was was hello, can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Israel.
I can hear you clearly. Okay, very clearly.
Fantastic. So if somebody was was with another organization in this other case, right? And
Yes.
they were looking to they had a need. You get what I'm trying to say? You can assume maybe they wanted to be able to have water in their apartment block anytime they need it because their tap is dirty or not working. You can be assured there are other people like them who have needs. Now, a common mistake a lot of young people make is they would take all the people's need that have that need and try and serve all of them at the same time. But what I always advocate is take one customer and find out, okay, how can I serve this customer very well? So well that he will tell his friends about me and about how I fulfilled his needs. You get what I'm trying to say? That's the best.
Yes.
That's exactly.
So let me pick your brain for a lot of young people that I've come across right now. So I get a lot of people that send me their bank details every day. The COVID-19 is really affecting a lot of people. And so the best people are doing now, in particular, there's no business moving right now. Makeup artists are not making money because nobody's making up to go anywhere, except they're making up themselves in their room. A lot of people are now doing, buying products, merchandises, goods, gift packs, and reselling them and all of that. So the question is, from your inside, where is the money right now? And where is the money going to be post-COVID?
Well, that's a great question. Well, I think the what of the world will not change much post-COVID, right? So people are still going to buy dresses, even if it's just for Zoom weddings. People are going to buy their cars. People are going to build houses. But the key thing is how. And I would argue that if you're looking to make money, you need to ask yourself, what will people need in this post-COVID period? You understand? What are they going to need very badly? The people that were making gloves very early on in this crisis are making even more money. The people that were selling face masks earlier in this crisis are making more money. The people that were selling food at the beginning of this crisis are making more money. So it's really a function of you, how would I put it? Asking yourself, you have to ask yourself, what do I want to achieve? Do you get what I'm trying to say? What problem do I want to solve?
Yes.
And then figuring that out, right? That's very, very critical. And even in a pandemic, they will remain relevant. It's just the methods that will change.
Yes. So a lot of time, companies and businesses diversify. They want to do something different. They want to try something new. How do you balance diversification with focus?
That's a good question. So what I like to do is the first thing is to start with, what are you focused on, right? What kind of skill sets do you want to focus on? Because no matter how diverse anybody is, there has to be some sort of baseline. So for example, let's look at Dangote. Dangote owns multiple industries, and if to the undiscerning eye, it can look like a very unfocused business person, which we know is not true. But if you look at the main strength of Dangote, Dangote sells basic needs, and he builds logistics infrastructure around selling basic needs at scale. So cement for building houses, sugar, indomie, juice for food, right? Energy, petrol that you need for generator and for your car, and for all his own transportation as well. Don't forget, he also has transportation needs in moving your sugar from one place to the other, or your flour from one place to the other. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? He's built an amazing business around mass production of basic needs, as well as logistics of it. And he can basically run in his own universe by bringing different components of his business empire together. So even when you are doing multiple business things, ask yourself, what is my comparative advantage? And focus your business interests, however diverse they are, along those lines. For example, for me, I know my own talent, right, is that I can inspire trust in people. So somebody meets me, they understand my values, they hear about me, you know that, okay, this guy is a trustworthy person. I try to maintain that, and he can somebody I trust. If I want to know about who is a good person, who is not a good person, I can rely on his judgment, his technical judgment about that. So I transmuted that power, that superpower, to becoming an investment professional and a sales professional. So I sell ideas to whoever needs to hear them, right? And then I, most importantly, sell ideas to investors who need to back them and support entrepreneurs who are doing so. So everybody has their comparative advantage. So even as you diversify, don't go and, like, I would be very foolish to go and become a hairdresser. You understand what I'm saying? Or to decide to go and pick up an oil well, because none of my skill sets are going to be useful in that kind of endeavor. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, yes. What role has grit played in your journey, and how can young entrepreneurs apply grit?
Well, I'll tell you this much, right? Like, I've had it, many people might look at me and say, "Oh, you had the opportunity to go abroad and all that," and I acknowledge all those privileges because they are real. You know, I had many opportunities because of sacrifices my parents made, and quite frankly, the grace of God. However, my story was not as easy as it might seem. You know, when I came back to Nigeria in 2013, I was pursuing an idea I was just telling you about. It was called Fora. You know, initially our plan was to go to NUC, get a license to be able to start distance learning programs within universities, and then get foreign professors to teach courses that we might not have experts to teach in Nigeria. So, for example, something like JavaScript at the time, there were no professors that could teach JavaScript in Nigerian universities. So I thought, oh, let me get the courses from abroad, and they can take those courses online, and the university gets the course, and so on and so forth. But then UC denied me. And I came under very high pressure from people that love me to go and look for a career in something I didn't enjoy, like oil and gas. And so the reality was, while we are all family now, I defied a lot of my family and decided, no, I'm going to stay on this technology path. And that came with a cost, right? So what that meant was I had to go and figure out my life. I was living in Bariga. I don't know how many people know Bariga. I was living in Bariga, very very close to Bajulai. I was living around that side. You know, I was walking to City Hub every day. I didn't have money to even enter bus. When I was starting Andela, we're entering two buses, one keke and one Okada to get to work in Ikoyi every day. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, you know, we had to make some sacrifices to be here, but I stuck to a lot of what I planned to do. One, because I knew I was heading somewhere, but more importantly, because I believed in what I was doing, and I thought it was important to work through all those challenges. You know, and so it's very important. You can't do anything important.
You were going through all of those. So let me interrupt you. While you were going through all of that and you were doing your Bariga to CC Up journey, what kept you going? Everybody felt that you were foolish. You were wasting your life. Go and get a job. I had experience too. What kept you going?
Well, you know, too. I mean, obviously, I had a lot of faith in my abilities, and that God would see me through. But I also took a lot of inspiration from other people who had traveled the same path. So there was a book I read, and I always recommend to new entrepreneurs. It's called Founders at Work by Jessica Livingston. Very, very good book. You should go out and look for it. It talks about the founding stories of multiple tech entrepreneurs, from the founders of BlackBerry to the founders of so on and so forth. And one thing I've picked up from all of that, you get what I'm trying to say, is that you see, the truth of the matter is every entrepreneur goes through a period of struggle. So I think reading those experiences and understanding that I was not alone in my experience gave me a lot of faith that this was just a phase and I'll be able to come out of it.
Mm.
You know, and so it's very, very important. You can't do anything 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 important. You can't do So I think that was a very critical part of it. So I always encourage entrepreneurs, look, while you're going through it, build your faith by reading about other entrepreneurs and their struggles and what they had to go through to be able to build the things that they built. Because it's
Did
never
you for any time
anybody.
Did you for any time have a fear of failure?
Did I have a what? Sorry?
A fear of failure. First at the beginning to say,
Oh yeah.
what if it didn't work? Or what if it doesn't work?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I lived in fear of failure the entire time because failure has a lot of consequences. But you know, I gave myself a chance to succeed. It definitely helped that I knew that, you know, what comes to worst, I had some job opportunities I could pursue if I reached the end of my rope. But I was willing to, I was willing to spend quite a bit of time to persevere along the path that I was on. Because I also, by the way, one other thing was, you know, when I had metrics for understanding my level of progress, and I was always flexible about changing strategy whenever I saw I wasn't making headway. So I'll give you an example. When I started, my original plan, like I told you earlier, was NUC should give me a license. When NUC didn't give me the license, what I did was I went to other parts of the world where e-learning was already established, obviously remotely because I couldn't travel at the time. And then I got them, I started helping especially young professionals in banks to be able to get admission to online learning courses, MBA courses in other countries. I would help them fill out their application. I would help them do all the paperwork, everything. And many of them got admission, and the schools used to give me a 20% commission, right? So I did a lot of programs like that. I sold a lot of corporate programs. So I didn't just stay in one place hoping that my idea would work, if you understand what I'm saying. I kept adapting and changing and adapting and changing and adapting and changing until I found something that worked.
So how much was your first investment that you got? What was the first big money that you got?
Oh, well, look, the first investment, you know, investment money is not money for your pockets. So the first investment I got was from a gentleman called Pule Taokobong, South African guy. I went to see him in New York. I actually came to New York. Then I was in school. You know, it's so funny. I was starting a business while I was in school, and I went to see him in New York with just my T fare from Toronto, Canada to New York in my pocket. I had no other money. So I went there. It was a complete fake trip. I went there. I took a lot of those type of trips. And I'm very used to doing it, where I just leave my house with nothing but my faith and whatever I have in my pockets. And I just hope and depend on God. So what happened with Pule was I saw him in New York. We had coffee. And right after our coffee, he wired me 5K. When I used that money to buy my ticket back. When I got back to Toronto, he gave me the balance 5K. That was literally the first time that I got any investment. But when I made some money was during my time at Andela. We had worked very, very hard for about a year and a half, and we're growing very fast. And so we had a funding round. So I made a decision to take some of that money off the table by selling my shares, a portion of my shares. I still own most of my shares, but I sold a portion of my shares. And I guess I made my first real money. But I paid plenty taxes to Lagos State government. I think Lagos State government did not as much as I did.
Okay, no.
I still have it.
but wait, this is where I'm driving at. Okay, for Andela, for your business, what was like the first? What was around what figure was the first big that any of your investment, like $5 million, $50,000, $100,000, $1 million? Where I'm driving at is, what was your first reaction when you got your first big break? Like, did the alert enter and like, oh no, we don't make up?
No, honestly speaking, we were in so much, we're under so much stress. It didn't feel as special as you're saying it. maybe in retrospect it did, but honestly, I mean, I remember, and it came in such little chunks over time. You know, before we knew it, we had raised $3 million. You know what I mean? But it came as 500, 25K, 40K, 10K, and the kind of work that we had to do to get that money. A lot of people, I went to one big man in Nigeria's office. I will never say his name. He laughed me out of the room, says I want to use his money to do Sahara, you know, because that kind of money to learn how to build software. So I will tell you, it didn't feel as special as it does now. Maybe the closest thing was, you know, when we were launching in New York during the New York week or whatever, Carmelo Anthony, the famous basketball player, had invested, and he came into the room. You know, so that was maybe the closest thing to like, wow, we are superstars. But honestly, in the midst of the work, it doesn't feel special. You're just working all the time. And by the time you are even seeing the money, you've already planned the money. The money has gone. Do you understand what I'm saying? The money has disappeared.
Yes.
So it doesn't even feel special anymore. But, you know, I thank God, you know, that we had those resources to be able to do things. Maybe the other time I would say was a special moment was when Mark Zuckerberg came. You understand? I remember Mark Zuckerberg remains my role model. You know, if there's anybody that's like a role model to me, it's Mark Zuckerberg, because I'm very inspired by his model. I even got into tech after watching The Social Network, which is an amazing movie about Mark Zuckerberg and how he built Facebook. So when Mark Zuckerberg came to Nigeria, and after the meeting we had a short chat and he took a picture with me, I felt very, very special. It was like, you know, meeting your idol. So I think that was another real moment. But honestly, because with the kind of business I do, the money that you get in investment is not yours to spend, and it's budgeted. You know, it's budgeted to the end. You know, so that doesn't usually feel as special as, you know, you take the congratulations, but you're just worried about how you're going to pay back the money.
Absolutely. How do you reward yourself? Because it's important for every entrepreneur.
That's a good question. So how do I reward myself? I think, I mean, I just like to spend time alone, honestly speaking, or with people I love, like my family, spend time with my daughter, my wife. I'm not really the kind of person who does. I travel for work, so traveling doesn't feel special to me. Like my ideal day is just be in a nice hotel with indoors, with just like with my wife and my kids, and just hang out. That's it. And read a book. I don't even want to go out and see anything, because I do that for work all the time. So that's really what I do. I just like to spend time alone in a serene environment.
So what role has faith played in your journey? Your faith, spirituality?
Look, I'll tell you this much, right? Like, the biggest part of what faith has done in my journey is just an understanding of the fact that, you see, we are here to fulfill God's purpose on earth. So when I do my job, I do it like I do religion, right? Almost, you know, I take it almost as seriously, because I feel like if we don't serve the people that are customers, you understand what I'm saying? We're sinning against God. So I actually take it very, very seriously. And I always joke with my father. My father is a pastor. Actually, he's Geo of Foursquare. I always joke with my father. I say, my father, you serve God, I serve the people. So you know, for me, I take my customers very seriously. I take the people that I serve very seriously. So this is like critical.
Yes. And as we begin to wrap up, one of the things that
you're
what was
saying,
that?
No, nothing. Don't worry about it.
Yes. So okay. No, but so are you okay? Let me not go there. How do you balance work life, relationship?
Look, I'm a very extreme person. So I do work and I do life differently. when like right now I'm in a very crunch mode period, so I'm going to spend a lot of time working for the next little while, and then the moment that we get to a peaceful position, I'll take time off and just disappear while other people handle things. But I do everything in a little bit of extremity. So I work very, very hard. And then when I want to do life, I do life very, very hard. If you understand what I mean. So that's how I work.
Absolutely.
Just my wife always jokes that I don't know how to multitask. And it's true. I can just, I can, if I'm doing one thing, I just focus on that thing. I don't do anything else.
My final question will be from Chase Christopher Ekbinedion, another fantastic young Nigerian I know. Chase says, what assistance can you give to listeners or information to help them succeed practically? I know that's what you've done basically for the last 1 hour, but what would be your final statement to entrepreneurs and young leaders who are listening? Your tough final statement. I mean, this is what I need you to do. I need you to look straight and speak as if you're speaking to every child, every young person, every entrepreneur, irrespective of their generation, because I'm going to cut out this part and share it on WhatsApp. What is that message that you have for the youth in this generation? Brother to brother, brother to sister, frank message.
No, you see, one thing I want to tell young people is this, right? I know the environment is crazy. I know it's not easy. I know it's very, very difficult for young people out there. But I also need you to understand that it is only within your power to fix. It is only within your power to fix. And we have no other country. We have no other way we are going. I can tell you, even those of you that want to jackpot, go and jackpot first. You will find that you will have to come back here to find relevance, because the outside world is biased against people who look like us. And so what that means is that we have to devote our energies to solving our problems. We cannot just be complaining and complaining and complaining and complaining. We have to work together. We have to learn how to collaborate and solve our problems together. Because a lot of these people who we're complaining about, one day they will die. But you know what they will leave for us? This world and these problems to fix. So I want every young person out there to basically become a problem solver. Constitute in your head that anything that you are seeing now, how can I solve this problem? How can I meet people's needs by solving this problem? Everybody needs help. Every single person needs help. You don't need to be in a special position to give help, right? So even if it means, sharing your knowledge of something you're passionate about, even if it means providing solutions to the problems, one day you will be heard, or you would have opportunity to contribute those solutions to somebody, right? And when you have that opportunity, I trust that you will grab it, you will make something out of it, and you impact lives with that opportunity. So that's what I have to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have been speaking to Iyinoluwa Aboyeji, the co-founder of Vandela, the co-founder of Flutterwave, and a member of the Presidential Enabling Business Council, a fantastic young Nigerian that we're very proud of in this generation. And we're very grateful for your time. We appreciate you and thank you for your service to Nigeria. And we look forward to seeing you when we take post-COVID, when we take this conversation from online and take it to the Landmark Convention Center by the grace of God, which means that by God's grace, we're all going to be alive to see that time, to see post-COVID by the grace of the Almighty God.
Amen.
Please send my love to your lovely wife and to the children and to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been great listening to Iyinoluwa Aboyeji. I hope that you've learned a thing or two